The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Today was a pretty interesting day, man. Went to bed and I woke up and I had all these things planned in case the Eagles lost. But they won. And I expected them to win. But on the off chance that they lost, I was loaded up and I was ready to go. I was bare for arm and I was ready to fire off some wicked shots. Now I have to put those bullets away permanently, because the things that I had lined up, they don't make sense now after them winning this Super Bowl. Can't use it. Maybe I can use it on some other team in the division if it makes sense, but it doesn't. I mean, this was very specific to Philadelphia. So I had a lot of time on my hands today because I was going to spend the vast majority of my day going at Eagles fans hard. And I knew what the response was going to be, and I knew what they were going to counter with, and I didn't care. So because I had extra time and I had all this energy, pent up that I thought I was going to be able to release. Pause. I cleaned up the whole damn house today. Cleaned corners and crevices that have not been cleaned in years. I took down the Christmas tree. It had been up since the second week of December. In my weird mental space, I told myself, not taking this Christmas tree down. It's been great luck all year, right? We didn't win shit till we got December. We got to December. We didn't lose another game. And so I was like, I'm keeping it up. Maybe it'll get the Eagles while it's at it. The Christmas tree had one job. One job it had. Not to light this house and bring the kids in the T household cheer as it lit up the Christmas night with gifts. No, that was not the tree's lone job. That tree's only responsibility was to make sure the Philadelphia Eagles didn't win the Super Bowl. It really was supposed to make sure we won the Super Bowl. But after that, okay, fine. Let's make sure those bastards don't win. It did not do its job. There are no free passes in the T household. Okay? Every single entity in this house has a responsibility. If you cannot honor your responsibility, then what use are you to me? What good are you? What purpose do you serve? So guess what happened to the Christmas tree? Off with his head. He's in the dumpster right now. Damn shame what happened to that Christmas tree. Anyway, watching the Eagles do what they did, which was one of the most dominant performances I've ever seen in a Super Bowl. And I said on X yesterday, watching the game, that this is the most dominant and shocking performance that I've ever seen in a Super Bowl. Someone brought up the Patriot or the 2013 Super Bowl between the Broncos and the Seahawks. But the biggest difference there was Peyton Manning ain't about that life, never has been about that life in this setting, in that type of game, right? Peyton Manning never been about that life. Even the Super Bowl he won against the Bears, he wasn't great in that game, all right? We know how awful he was. He was nothing merely more than a passenger, and not even a good one. That Super Bowl victory against the Carolina Panthers, he was a mere passenger, and not a good one, by the way. He was more of a backseat driver. However, them getting their ass reamed in that Super Bowl, not shocking, right? After watching them pile up the most points in NFL history in a single season at that time, watching them get dismantled and throttled in the manner that they did, yeah, a little bit jarring. But when you think about Peyton Manning's history in big games in the postseason, not that far-fetched. Not that far-fetched. But that's not what happens to Patrick Mahomes. There were a lot of firsts for Patrick Mahomes the other night. First time, the biggest deficit he's seen in his NFL career happened last night. Most times he's been sacked in an NFL game happened last night. And I'd venture to say that he's never been shut out for 3 consecutive quarters until last night. That's just my guess. I've watched a lot of Chiefs football. I've watched every single game Patrick Mahomes has ever played in. I can all but assure you, I would bet any amount of money, he's never been shut out for 3 full quarters of a ball game. Never. Probably in his life, matter of fact. But I can't speak to his Texas Tech career. So I won't say in his life. Can't speak to his rec ball career, his Pop Warner career. But I can speak to his Chiefs career. We ain't never seen that shit before. Probably won't see it again either. That said, last night was eye-opening, but not for the reasons you may be thinking. It was eye-opening because you watched the Chiefs get dismantled. And I thought to myself, we weren't that far off. That was not going to be us. For the crowd that said, hey, you know, my buddy called me earlier today. One of my buddies called me and said, now, I could have went out there and played quarterback for the Chiefs better than Mahomes did. He said, any NFC team could have did what the Eagles did to the Chiefs last night. I said, stop that shit, man. Cut that shit out. Stop that shit, bro. Stop. Like, people got to stop with this narrative that XYZ team could have done that. Same thing. You really think Mahomes would have played that poorly against the Commanders defense? You're right. You think he would have played that poorly against the Bucks defense? You're right. The Rams defense? Maybe, because they could get pressure with 4. Maybe. He might have struggled, but not to that extent. Their corners aren't that good. They're not that disciplined defensively. You're right. He would not have struggled against any other NFC team the way he struggled against the Philadelphia Eagles. However, we could have beaten Kansas City. I don't know if we would have, but we could have beaten them. We were capable of beating anybody this year. And watching Philadelphia, knowing that we were in that ball game against them in the NFC Championship game, despite all the mistakes, we were in the exact same spot. And I always harken back to this because we were right there, and it just makes you think, how can we get on their level? How can we bridge that gap? The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Feels dirty to even say that. They're Super Bowl champions. And I want some of that action. And as a fan, I can tell you this with no shame. None. This is the most confident and the closest I've ever been nor felt going into an offseason to a championship as a fan. I've never felt this close. It's within reach. I can see the Super Bowl. It's right there. And all we got to do is press the right buttons this offseason, and it can be in our grasp, and we can be the team hoisting the Lombardi next year. That's crazy talk. for most NFL franchises. We were in the NFC Championship game last year, just a couple weekends ago. It ain't crazy talk for us. We got the 7th best odds, tied with Cincinnati, in the entire NFL to win the Super Bowl next year. It's not far-fetched. But the Eagles have set the standard. They set the bar. They play in our division. We've got to see them twice, possibly a third time, as we saw this year. Probably going to have to go through Philadelphia. So how do you bridge the gap? I want to give you 3 massive takeaways from the Eagles' Super Bowl victory and how they apply to us and what we have to do moving forward to get on their level. We're not that far away. Some of you think we're a lot further than we really are. We're not that far away. Talent-wise, we've got a lot of work to do. They've got us lapped several times talent-wise. We'll need 3 off seasons to catch up. We'll need 3 off seasons to catch up. And that's assuming that they don't continue to push that finish line further back, right? That's assuming that they stay right where they are right now and we continue to grow and build. And we know that's not going to happen. That's not how this works, and that's not how Howie Roseman works. He's going to continue to push the envelope. They may lose a couple of their guys in free agency. They'll get more. But we don't have to equal them in talent. This is the misnomer. My guy Derek B losing his shit today. I love Derek B. He's losing his shit. He acts like he's never seen a dominant defense win a Super Bowl before. We've seen it before. The one advantage we have over the Philadelphia Eagles is quarterback. We got one of them ones, and that changes everything. But what we saw last night is not uncommon, and we've seen it play out before. It doesn't matter if you have one of them ones if you can't protect the quarterback, and that's where we start with our number 1 way to bridge the gap. And find a way to play in Super Bowl 60 next year. The number 1, we've got 3. 1 reason, the first one, is you got to shore up the trenches on both sides. We talked about this last night. It's not a surprise. It's why I'm leading with this, because this isn't new news. I talked about this, and the funny thing is, I talked about this when the season first ended for us. And people were like, we need to get a receiver. We need to get a running back. People were naming all these glamorous positions, the shiny objects that people get excited about during free agency and the draft. No one ever wants to talk about the trenches. You know what's not sexy? A left tackle in the first round. You know what is sexy? A guy that you can quantify how he's going to come in and help your team. Man, he runs a 4.32. Man, he had 88 catches for 1,400 yards. That's sexy. That's what people love to glorify. And I get it. As a fan, you know what film is fun to watch? Wide receiver film, running back film. It's a joy to watch. You know what's not fun to watch? Offensive lineman film. For some of you, you're like, well, speak for yourself. I love watching offensive lineman film. Good for you. Good for you. I don't. I'm not going to front. It's a necessary evil. It's a requirement of the job if you're looking to try to evaluate prospects. Can't run from it. But you know what is imperative? That you have 5 guys in front of your quarterback, 5 guys in front of your running back, and you probably need to sprinkle in some tight ends as well that can block, that can keep your quarterback clean, that can open up holes in the running game, etc., etc. And what we saw last night was the inability of the Kansas City Chiefs offensive line to block again, this was not like Tampa in 2020 where Todd Bowles was blitzing the draws off of Patrick Mahomes in a very, very deficient offensive line that was banged up at the time. This is not the same thing. Todd Bowles brought pressure and they could not handle it. The Eagles did no such thing. They did not blitz once, not one single time that they blitzed, yet they had pressure the entire night to the point where Patrick Mahomes was seeing ghosts. He was running into sacks. I talked about this as soon as the season ended. I didn't want to talk about receiver. I didn't want to talk about running back. I didn't want to talk about tight end. I didn't want to talk about corner. These are all positions of need. But none of them trump the offensive line, because when we've been at our worst this season, Jaden Daniels was under siege. Our lowest point total of the season, Philadelphia, first time around, under siege the entire game. Our second lowest point total of the season, well, tied for the lowest was the Chicago game with that first Philadelphia game, but nonetheless, the second lowest point total of the season was the Saints game. He got sacked, what, 7-8 times in that game? Barely won the game. Missed some opportunities. Obviously, Terry open down the sideline. Terry open over the middle. 2 opportunities for touchdowns, and that game's not close. But again, there's a theme there. When he misses, a lot of times he misses in games where he's under duress. The Steelers game. Should have won that game. He wasn't his most accurate that game. He missed some throws, but he also was under pressure in that game. And he was sacked multiple times in that game. We know that the both Cowboy games, he was under siege in both of those games. We play the Cowboys twice. We play the Eagles twice. These are teams you're going to have to be able to block. We have to shore up the offensive line. For some of you, that was on the list, but it wasn't as high as it needed to be. I need you to move that to the top of the list. Getting a left tackle should be priority 1 this offseason, and moving Brandon Coleman to left guard, or at least letting him compete with Nick Allegretti, should be your second order of business. Drafting the right tackle of the future should be pretty high. I'm not telling you it's first, second, third, or even fourth, but at some point in this draft, 3rd round, 5th round, whatever makes you comfortable. It's not a deep offensive tackle draft class, as I've heard. If that's true, then maybe you need to do it sooner rather than later. But that should be something you put emphasis on. Maybe you say, you know what? Don't love the class of, tackles. We'll get a free agent next year to replace Andrew Wiley. So be it. Whatever floats your boat. But the more dire of the two is left tackle. What you don't want to have to do consistently is help both of your tackles. If we just got to help Andrew Wiley, we'll live, right? Too often last year when we played against good teams, our eligibles, 2 of them, had to chip before they went out, slowing them down from getting out into the route. I would like to see us upgrade the offensive line, and then conversely, we need to do the same defensively. Now, I think we got some good pieces already on that defensive line, but we have to upgrade defensive end, and it wouldn't hurt to also add another defensive tackle. I've heard that this is a tremendous defensive line draft. If you're looking for defensive line talent, this is the year to grab it. Excellent. I'll take 2. I'll take 2. You can never have enough defensive linemen. You can never have enough. The Eagles come at you in waves on that defensive line. In waves. I talked about it already. They spent 2 first-round picks on defensive tackles out of Georgia in consecutive years. Same thing we did here. Sound familiar? Except ours isn't as dominant Well, Jordan Davis is cool. He's not like some havoc wreaking, interior defensive tackle, but the other one is. The other one is. Dorrance Armstrong is cool. I got no complaints. But we really need to ratchet it up on the other side. And you know what? It would also be nice. We need to get faster on defense. It's something that was noticeable. And as much as I love Bobby Wagner, he not what he once was, right? And one of the things I saw about the Chiefs, especially in stopping Saquon, they just were fast. They were flying to the football. They made a concerted effort to get to the football, but their linebackers fly to the ball. Their defensive linemen are active. They just are athletically gifted enough to make plays. We aren't right now defensively. We need to be faster, more athletic. But it starts up front, both sides of the football. That's the first takeaway. First way you bridge the gap to being in Super Bowl 60 is you gotta shore up both sides of the football in the trenches. Number 2. This one, it's a pretty big one. And this is a battle we've been fighting for years. We've been fighting for years. And no matter what they tell us, no matter what we've been sold, the results seem to remain the same. Change players, you change coaches, you change philosophical beliefs, the results stay the same. We have got to force more turnovers. And on the flip side of that, I'll couple these together. You have to take care of the football. We've got that part down pat. Unfortunately, when we played Philadelphia last year, we lost our minds and we didn't know how to take care of the football. But against everybody else, we did a pretty damn good job of taking care of the football. Don't know what it was about Philadelphia, why we couldn't hold on to the football, why we decided to, against the Eagles, we were going to turn the ball over like our mind was gone bad. 4 in the championship game, 5 in the Week 16 victory. I don't know why. 1 in the game against Philadelphia in week number, I think it was 11. I don't know. I can't explain it. I don't know why. Stop asking. 10 turnovers. I think we had 17 for the season. 10 of them came against Philadelphia. Again, my hands are up. You got me. But we can take care of the ball. I'm not worried about that. Jaden's not going to put the ball in harm's way very often. So I'm not too concerned about the turnover thing. Here's what I am concerned about: our inability to produce turnovers. The inability to produce turnovers. So this is the biggest issue I have right now, is when you look at the Eagles' run to the Super Bowl. It wasn't great offense. They weren't great offensively against the Green Bay Packers in Wild Card Weekend. They weren't great offensively in the divisional round against the Los Angeles Rams. They were really good against us, in the championship game, and equally as good. No. I won't even say that they were equally as good. They were okay in the Super Bowl. They were okay offensively in the Super Bowl. I actually think the Chiefs' defense didn't play poorly. They got absolutely zero help from their offense. And at some point, as I told you before, and it happened to us, at some point, you let go of the rope. There's only so much you can do. There's only so much fight left before you let go of the rope. They were fighting their asses off, but at some point, you're going to let go of the rope if your offense continues to turn the ball over, continues to go 3 and out, you can't sustain offense and drives, can't put any points on the board. At some point, you're going to let go of the rope. And they let go of the rope. When it got to 17-0, that pick six, it broke their back. And they still fought defensively, but the offense just never gave them a shot. That said, the Eagles in every single game forced at least one turnover, and in most of those games forced multiple turnovers. I've always talked about turnovers being the great equalizer. You don't have to be a great defensive team, but if you can produce turnovers, it levels the playing field. It changes everything. And with how dynamic our offense was this season, how we could score the football. Imagine getting our offense more possessions, getting them shorter fields to work with. It seemed like we were always having to take the football and drive it 70 some odd yards every single possession because we didn't create turnovers. They were harping on them. It's not like they weren't talking about turnovers. It's not like DQ and Joe Witt Jr. weren't emphasizing turnovers. They talked about it all the damn time. But this is a game of action, and talking doesn't produce turnovers. We need dogs on defense. We need guys that mentally are wired to attack the football. We don't attack the football. We try to get guys on the ground. We're not looking to punch the ball out. We're not looking to club it. We're not looking to strip it from behind. We're not looking to lawnmower the ball out. We did have one of those with Mike Sainristil against the Tennessee Titans, but those are few and far between. Benjamin St. Juste had a beautiful punch in week 2 against the Giants, but those are few and far between. I can't tell you any more, fumbles that were actually like legitimately somebody went in and pried the ball out or took it away. Normally the fumbles we get, we just happen to get lucky. Somebody's helmet hit the ball. Somebody was making a tackle and the guy was just loose with the football and it happened to hit the ground, but we never recover those anyway. We don't attack the football. We dropped 3 or 4 interceptions this year. Like, if we want to take that next step, we got to take it away. We got to take the football away. So one turn, just think about the games in the postseason. We took care of the ball against Tampa. We forced one turnover. We even forced that turnover. What am I saying? We didn't force that turnover. They gave it away, and we were there. We were just opportunistic enough to recover that football. That was a hell of a play by Bobby Wagner. That was not an easy fumble to recover. We didn't force that fumble. But that was the difference in the game. That without that recovery, we don't win that game. One turnover. The next week, you know what it was against Detroit. We needed every single one of those turnovers. Maybe not the last interception by Jeremy Chin, but that was icing on the cake. We didn't want to have to go to a onside kick situation or none of that bullshit. Put it away. But we needed every one of those turnovers. Without the Dorrance Armstrong forced fumble recovery by Frankie Louvu, we probably lose the game. We were down 7-3, and they were driving for more. They were basically already in the red zone, threatening to go up 14-3. We would have been in some trouble. That saved the day, and then we capitalized from that point forward. The Mike Sainristil, the pick six, first of all, by Quan Martin, massive. Because I think that was the first time in the game where we said, no, we winning this shit. You went from, man, I think we can win. We're hanging in. We're playing tough with the number 1 seed. Yeah. To going up 10, 24-14 and saying, no. We finna win this bitch. Everything changed after that pick six. Then Mikey Sainristil's pick before the half to keep that 10-point lead intact. Yeah. Needed that. Right? And then obviously the icing on the cake was Mikey Samer still picking off that, reverse pass by Jamison Williams that put us in a position to then go up 17, and we did. And then Jeremy Chin obviously put it away, but the game had already been decided by then. But all those turnovers made a massive difference. Then you get to the championship game and you don't force a single turnover, not one. You give it away 4 times. Those lead to 28 points. You can't even force one. You can't even get one turnover back. You know what was the deciding factor, or not the deciding factor? You know what was one of the game-altering plays in the Week 16 contest against Philadelphia? The Frankie Louvu pick. We were dead man walking. We were dead, I tell you. We had no life. We had no momentum. We were sleepwalking, and his interception, it was the only turnover we forced the entire day. Ball was on the ground multiple times. Kenny Pickett fumbled 2 or 3 times. We couldn't recover none of them shits. But that one turnover, they created 5 of them hoes. 5. All right. I think we created one at the end. They tried the little lateral shit. I think we might have recovered. I don't remember. I think we had a second turnover, but that's besides the point. They created 5 turnovers, and that one turnover by Frankie Louvu changed everything. One. So all we needed in the championship game was one takeaway, something to spark us, give us a short field, right? Something that we could use to level the playing field, that equalizer. We couldn't generate one turnover. Turnovers are huge. Sometimes it's not the team that is the better team. It's the team that just takes care of the football. It's the team that makes the least amount of mistakes. For once, it would be nice if not only are we the team that makes the least amount of mistakes, but we also force some mistakes, make life easier. You want to know why we play so many damn close games? We'll take the damn ball away. That's how you find yourself in close games. Because you could play a clean game, but if you don't take it away and the other team plays a relatively clean game, well, guess what? Now it's you against me. Who's better? From a talent perspective, we ain't going to win that matchup very many times. But because we had one of them ones, we found ourselves on the right side of those games a lot more than we did not. But make no mistake about it. The games where we forced turnovers, the Cleveland game, the Arizona game, because they had a turnover on downs in that game. And I count turnover on downs as a turnover. You get a stop on 4th down, that's as good as a turnover, right? The Cleveland game, the Carolina game, the Arizona game, like these are big deals. These are big deals. You create turnovers, you shorten the field, you give yourself an extra possession. And with the way we could score, those are huge. Those are huge. The Tennessee game, right? We got to create more turnovers. For as well as we took care of the ball, our plus minus was out of whack. Like, where did we finish the season? +2 or 3? Bro, we had like 13 turnovers total for the entire season. 13. Our quarterback threw 9 picks, and I think we might have 4 fumbles spread out amongst the rest of the group. Brian Robinson had 2 in week 16. Like, what are we talking about? Whatever the turnover, 15, 16, whatever the number was, that's not a lot of turnovers. For a team that won 12 games, we should have been +11 or 12 or 13. We were +2 or 3 or 1. That's insane. Meanwhile, The Eagles are turning the ball over, but it doesn't matter. And they weren't like a sloppy team with the handles. They weren't a high turnover team. Jalen Hurts didn't throw a lot of picks this year. He did fumble, but he wasn't a big turnover guy. But they finished some ridiculous, probably plus 12 or 13. Buffalo finished some crazy plus 14, 15 because they're generating turnovers. Buffalo's defense wasn't great, but they could take it away. That's the next one for us. We gotta force some turnovers, man. We gotta find guys who are wired to take it away. It's cool to teach turnovers, but some of that is innate. Some guys just look to, like Sean Taylor looked to take the ball away. He wanted to light you up, but he also, that was an intimidating factor there. That was intimidation. But he was looking to take the ball away. Every opportunity he got, he was trying to force a turnover. Whether it's a fumble that he was looking to force or a pick, he was looking to take the ball away. Some dudes are just wired that way. Our guys aren't wired that way. They're not, half the time, they're not even looking for the football. They rather go make a tackle than attack the football. I don't care about a big hit anymore. Those days are over. I'd much rather have the football. To hell with a big hit. Give me the rock. I'd rather you go straight to a quarterback and hit his arm and knock the ball out than you and him not know you coming and force a fumble than you to rock his ass and light him up, but he don't fumble. That shit don't mean nothing to me. Ooh, that shit don't mean nothing to me. I want the ball. The Eagles take it away. That's why they won the Super Bowl. They don't force those turnovers against us. They don't beat us. They don't beat us. They don't force that fumble against the Rams. They don't beat the Rams. Those shits matter. They lose that game if Jalen Carter, who is always looking to punch the football out. He had like 3 punch outs against us alone this season. If he doesn't punch that football out against Kyron Williams, they'll win that Rams game. We got to create turnovers. Third and final thing that bridges the gap between us and Philadelphia. What was apparent watching the game yesterday, and I've talked about this with Philadelphia and how fundamentally sound they are defensively with Vic Fangio. It's not like they just play quarters coverage. Like, it's not anything fancy. It's not this, dynamic scheme they're playing. They just play disciplined football. They keep everything in front of them. They play tight zones, right? So, there's not a ton of space. Guys aren't running wide open often. They pass things off very, cleanly and beautifully. Like, they communicate well. They're where they're supposed to be. The spacing is immaculate. And then they get pressure with 4. So you don't have to, divulge extra resources to trying to get to the quarterback, which takes guys out of coverage, which then leaves more space for the other team to operate in. No. Now you're seeing green jerseys everywhere. But you know what hurts that? Guys that can catch the football and make something happen after the catch. Our third and final takeaway of bridging the gap is we need more dynamic playmakers. Guys that when they touch it, they can make something happen. I was shocked that Xavier Worthy wasn't a bigger factor in the game when the game was still in imbalance, right? Because of what Philadelphia does, because of how they play, there was supposed to be a lot of underneath opportunities available. Xavier Worthy was one of the few guys, Hollywood Brown to a lesser extent, but Xavier Worthy was one of the few guys, and he had a massive day, set a rookie record for most yards in a Super Bowl, 8 catches, 157, 67 yards, something like that. 50 of it obviously came on the touchdown late, with under 2 minutes to go. But even before that, he had 100 yards receiving, right? He was the guy that I thought could have a massive impact because much like Terry in the game the week prior or 2 weeks prior in the championship game, Terry catches a slant, breaks a tackle, outruns the safety, touchdown, right? You need more of that. When you're playing a team like Philadelphia, it's going to make you take everything underneath, going to make you matriculate the ball down the field. You need guys that can take a 5-yard catch, turn it into a 55-yard catch. You need a guy that can take an 8-yard gain, turn it into a 28-yard gain. Right? You need guys that can shorten the field for you and not force you to have to. That's one of the things that the Eagles, they prey on, right? At some point, we're going to keep making you make every right decision without making a mistake. And we're going to force you to do that for 15 plays, knowing that at some point, you're going to have a penalty, you're going to have a negative play, you're going to get sacked, something's going to go awry, and you're not going to be able to continue this drive. And either you're going to have to settle for a field goal or you're going to have to go for it on 4th down, right? Or you're going to end up having to punt the football despite having a 6-minute drive that ate up, 48 yards, but you took a sack on 3rd down. Now you're out of field goal range. Or you had a holding penalty on 2nd down. Then you took a sack on 3rd down, and now you're out of field goal range, right? Or you miss a field goal because it's a far further field goal, right? Whatever the case may be, they play extravagant bend but don't break defense. And we've seen the shift in the NFL to teams wanting to do that. What do you think happened to Patrick Mahomes after this meteoric rise in terms of his ability to chuck it deep and have all these explosive plays with Tyreek Hill? What do you think defenses did? They said, all right, two high shell. We're playing back on Patrick. Make them run the football. Make Patrick check that bitch down and, make him be patient, something that he wasn't adept at doing. He didn't do it in college at at Texas Tech. He didn't have to do it early in his career for the first 4 years. Then teams said, all right, 2 high shell, keeping everything in front of us. All right, Patrick, do whatever you're going to do, but you're not going deep. And he struggled. He's had to learn, and he's admitted this. He had to learn how to be patient, how to take the check down. And he even said last night after the game, I was doing too much. I wanted to make the big play on every single play. He's still struggling to this day. We're just taking the easy money. You can't go broke making a profit. But even with that said, they had guys that could make things happen if you just got it to them. And he said after the game, that's on me. I should have gotten the ball to our playmakers and let them make something happen. I was trying to make something happen. Well, Jaden has proven already that he don't mind taking that 3-yard gain on 1st down, that 4-yard gain on 2nd down, and then, 2 on 3rd down and making it 4th and 1 and converting. He's already shown against the Eagles, that first drive was 18 plays. Now we only got a field goal out of it, but it was 18 plays. And they said, oh, he's just dinking and dunking. No, he's just taking what the Eagles were giving him defensively. The part that is so funny to me, when Eagles fans talk about how they dominated us, which they did. But they act as if Jaden Daniels played poorly or he was mid, as some people want to say, right? Far from it. We had 9 possessions. The 9th possession of the game for us was a fumble by Austin Eckler. Score was 34-23. We had 9 possessions up to that point. 9th one resulted in a fumble by Austin Eckler. Let's go through those 9 possessions quickly, right? Field goal, right? So first 2 possessions, field goal, right? Or excuse me, first 2 possessions, field goal, fumble. We were on the move again. Fumble, field goal, touchdown, fumble, field goal, punt, touchdown, fumble. So in 9 possessions, he led us on 5 scoring drives, one of which came with 37 seconds and no timeouts. What are you talking about here? 5 scoring possessions, 3 fumbles. He had nothing to do with any of the fumbles. And 1 punt. 1 punt in 9 possessions. There's a fake punt in there that kept 1 possession alive, but 1 punt in 9 possessions. The other 3 fumbles, 2 of them we were driving. Right? The De'Ami Brown fumble on the second possession. We're heading into Eagles territory. That's a first down play, a gain of 9 at midfield, and he fumbles. The Austin Eckler fumble. We're moving into Eagles territory. Great, not a great throw by Jaden, but he's under duress. Again, can't step into the throw. He's off balance. Not the greatest throw. Don't fumble the ball. Don't fumble the ball. So this narrative that, oh, he didn't play well, he was mid, he was missing throws, we must have watched a different game. We must have watched a different game. Because as I said a million times, and I'll say it a million more, he was in the exact same position he was in week 16. We were driving late stages of the third, down 2 scores with the ball in Eagles territory, and you know what was about to happen because they really hadn't stopped him all day. They stopped us as a team by forcing fumbles. They didn't stop Jaden Daniels. There's levels to this shit, as I always tell you. So what I'm telling you is Patrick Mahomes struggled to do what our quarterback at his young, ripe age was able to do. And so at the end of the day, I'm telling you right now that Jaden needs a guy that he can just get it to. And you know, I'm starting to rewire my brain to think it, because I was big on, and in my mind, I still want a bigger receiver. And I'm like, well, why can't we have both, right? Why can't we have a big receiver that can attack the football, high point the ball, give Jaden a big target to throw it to, and a guy that can be shifty and do things with the football? Like, if I had it my way, you could get the shifty small guy in the draft. You don't need to look for a free agent to do that. I want the big body target in free agency in T. Higgins, if at all possible. And as the days go by, I'm becoming less and less confident that he's even going to hit the market, right? But I would love it if we could get him in free agency, and we could get him in free agency and then find us a shifty receiver in the mid rounds of the draft, 3rd, 5th round. No, we don't have a 4th round pick. 3rd, 5th round, whatever. I think we're going to trade back, so we may end up with a 4th round pick. But just a guy that you can throw it to, he can make a guy miss, or he can outrun an angle. And again, I'm not saying he's got to score a 55-yard touchdown. Like Xavier Worthy last night, you know, every play wasn't going, but hey, 1 missed tackle, and he turned a 2-yard hitch into a 12-yard first down, right? Like, that's the shit you need when you're playing a defense like Philadelphia, where everything's tough and you're working so hard for everything. You know, sometimes you just want to be able to just throw a 4-yard pass, thank you, and have that go for 14 yards. And you didn't do anything, right? All you did was just get it to a guy, and he makes a play. Those are the three things right now that stick out like a sore thumb. Watching the Eagles dismantle the Chiefs yesterday, understanding that we have to see them twice a year, and they got something that we want. Not only, they got a lot of things that we want, but not only do they have a Super Bowl championship, that's something that we want to get our hands on. But before we even get to that, they got the NFC East crown. We want that shit. Because here's something else that we've seen. It's going to be tough winning at the link. It's going to be tough winning at the link. We need some playoff games at the crib, man. We have no issues going on the road, but it's going to be tough winning at the link. You want things to change? You got to change them. No team has won the division in back-to-back years. It's our turn now. We're up next. Schedule's going to be tough next year. It's going to be brutal. A lot of good teams on the schedule. Chargers and, Lions and Packers and, Chiefs, Vikings. Again, play the division. The Eagles twice, play the Cowboys twice. I don't have to tell you. Giants twice. It's just not going to be easy. Denver's on the schedule. The Bears are on the schedule. But I expect a busy and productive offseason. And I expect them to attack the things that are going to bridge that gap between us and the Super Bowl defending champion Philadelphia Eagles. I've given you my three. What's yours? Do you agree with me? Do you agree with two of mine and you're going to add in a different one? Do you agree with one of them? You got two more? Love to hear it. Leave it in the comment section. Anyhow, I got two other things for you. I got two things for you, and we'll get to the comment section. We'll get out of here. And we'll talk more about this tomorrow. One, Deebo Samuel is available. You know our name's going to come up because of who our GM is. I'm not super interested in him. I don't really want anybody who's doing a show, a podcast, any of that shit during the season. I'm good on that. Like, that's not who we've been. We all about ball over here. But I just said I want a guy that you can get it to that can make something happen. I just described Deebo Samuel. So, again, I'm not opposed to it, but I'm also not looking to give up draft capital to obtain Deebo Samuel. And he's got to be getting close to the end of his contract too, right? I know he signed an extension. I want to say he requested a trade, back in 2021, and then immediately received, like maybe a week later, an extension. I think that was the 2021 season. I'd like to think that if it wasn't 2021, it was 2022. Somewhere in there, he got to be getting close to the end of his deal. Anyway, I just bring it up because our name's going to be linked to him. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Also, and I'm going to have a visual of this at some point, but I don't know if y'all saw, the way too early MVP odds for next season. This is how you know we got one of them ones. And I've told you what the ranking is in the NFL. I've told you what the totem pole is. You can put them wherever you want, in whatever order you want. But Mahomes, Jackson, Allen, Burrow, and our guy, Jaden Daniels. That's the order, right? Or that's the five. You put them in whatever order you want, right? But that's the five. Mahomes, Burrow, Jackson, Allen, Daniels. That's the five. You seen the MVP odds for next year? Lamar and I think Lamar and Josh are tied for first. They're followed by Burrow. Then it's Mahomes. And then who do you think is fifth? Who do you think is fifth? I can't make this shit up, man. If you one of them ones, you one of them ones, right? And again, they're not letting Jared Goff in this discussion. I looked down the list. I was looking for Jalen Hurts. Straight Jacket was like 11th on the list, right? That's cool. It ain't top 5. It's levels to this shit. It is what it is. Look, I don't make the rules, man. I don't make the rules. Okay. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section, and then we'll get out of here. G Style, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. G Style writes, big homie, what up? I won good money on the Eagles. I told you they was going to win. I didn't think they were going to win like that, but I told you they was going to win. Smart man to put money. Put your ego and your pride aside and let that money collide with your palm, right? Let that money collide here, right? Still hurts, though, watching them win it. Happy for Hurts, though. He can play. I told you, if Jalen Hurts, if Straight Jacket played for any other division, I'd be rooting like hell for him. He's a good dude, man. He's a good dude. So is Saquon. They good dudes. So I personally have no issues seeing that man win anything. It only sucks because he plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. I've always told you, I like Jalen Hurts. I love his temperament. I love what he stands for. Like, I got no beef with him. None whatsoever. And he's a good football player. G-Style, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Lou, offensive line is priority one, then mostly D. I agree that the priority one should be the offensive line. I've been harping on that. Everybody, a lot of people, I won't say everybody, but a lot of people have been talking about skill guys, receiver, running back, this, that. And I'm like, yeah, all of that shit's cool, but none of it matters. As we saw last night, like, I had somebody say to me on socials, I couldn't even respond. I think I might have said one thing, and then I just was like, all right, I'm done with this shit. It's a frivolous conversation, one that I don't need to be a part of. And it was something to the effect of, the Chiefs ain't even that good. Look at what Mahomes has around him, and I'm like, what? Wait, what? What? Don't do that because the Eagles beat the brakes off of them and made them look pedestrian. We're not going to play that game now. We're not doing that, right? What you're not going to do is try to act like the Eagles didn't just shut them down and try to act like all of a sudden now the Chiefs is trash. Come on, man. Stop. Behave yourself, man. That's nasty. Don't do that. Stop it. You could argue, and me and my buddy were talking about this earlier, you could argue that this is the most talent Mahomes has had around him since the early days of Samuel Watkins. Y'all give it up for Mr. Sammy Watkins. Young Tyreek Hill, younger Travis Kelce, and that group, right? You could argue since that group, this is the most talent he's ever had. This man had Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster, DeAndre Hopkins, Travis Kelce. Like, don't talk to me about not having talent. Stop that shit, man. Stop that, Aki, before I send shots to your body. Stop it. and couldn't do shit, couldn't bust a grape because his offensive line couldn't protect. So all of that talent means absolutely nothing if you can't protect up front. So to me, without question, the offensive line is priority one. Because it don't matter if you go out and get T. Higgins. It don't matter if you go out and trade for Deebo Samuel. It don't matter if you get a stud receiver in the draft. None of that shit matters if Brandon Coleman's at left tackle getting beat like a drum. None of it matters. Doesn't matter. Lose Christmas tree. Thank you for the super chat. So what is this coming from, the dumpster? Are you speaking from the grave here? You talking a lot of hot ish about me. I did my damn job and I got us to the NFC Championship title. He said NFC title game. I can't do it alone. Now get me out of this trash can. Oh man, you did a really good job, but you didn't finish the job. You didn't finish the job. You did a hell of a job, but you didn't finish the job. My only regret is that I didn't give someone else an opportunity to claim you. I just tossed you in the trash. Maybe somebody else could have given you a loving home. Maybe this didn't need to be the end of the line for you. That's on me. I apologize for that. If you'll accept my apology, mistakes were made. Mistakes were made. Can't come get you out of the trash can, though. It's too late. It's too late. Captain Obvious. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, the city of New Orleans is undefeated. I would ask you in what way, but I love New Orleans. Been there, had a great time. We won there this year earlier in the season. I would have loved to have gotten back there one more time. Wasn't meant to be. Wasn't meant to be. Mike Lake, been a member for 33 months. Really appreciate you. Mike Lake writes, the Eagles have multiple pictures on their walls showing how to dislodge the football. That's coaching. At what point do we have a Witt conversation? It's way too early to have a Joe Witt conversation because he didn't have any talent. Like, not any talent. That's not fair to the guys that are here that played actually well this season. But he doesn't have a full deck. Let's say that. He had a below average hand this year, right? He had he had a two in a possible hand. Let's wait till he's got, 4 or 5, in a possible hand before we start crucifying this man. Like, literally, it was Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner, Mike Sainristil, and the rest of the group, right? Like, you never know which week Dorrance Armstrong was going to step up. And I don't want to discount what Dante Fowler did, but he faded on us towards the end of the season, right? Him and Oos, from a sack perspective, those boys were on a crazy trajectory through the first 12 weeks, maybe 11 weeks. And I mean, at one point, Fowler had 8. Fowler had 8.5. Frankie had 8. And we probably had 6 games left in the season. And I think Louie had himself a day against the Eagles the first game. So that week 11. So I think I said it right. We had 6 games left. That was the last sack I think he got in the regular season. Frankie Louie was against the Eagles. And then Dante Fowler Jr. obviously cooled off. He ended up with 10.5, but he had 8 after like 10 weeks of football. So you didn't know what you were getting from those guys up front. We couldn't stop the run worth a damn. We had one corner because really Marshawn Lattimore ain't count because he got there so late. And even when he played, he wasn't as effective as we know he can be. Looking for a totally different Marshawn Lattimore next year. So, again, we were solid contributions from Jeremy Chin and, Quan Martin, but nothing game-changing from those dudes. So, hard to have a wit conversation when you don't trust your ability to cover on the outside. And again, he said, and I believe him, because if you watch, they didn't protect their corners. They played a lot of single high free safety, right? They played a lot of, middle of the field close. They played a lot of single high. So, which is why Mikey was playing 10 yards off damn near all the time. Because he didn't want to get beat. Because he wasn't supposed to be out there in the first place. So, we got a lot of work to do. And it's hard to blame Joe Witt. I understand the Eagles, if that's true, they got pictures up about punching the ball out. Great for them. If a visual is what you need, maybe we need to adopt that. But we gotta find a way to generate more turnovers. That's got to be an emphasis this year. And whether that's going out and getting players that hunt the football, have that mentality, or you're coaching it in a different manner, whatever you did this year didn't work. And I'm not saying abandon what you've done in the past, but something's got to change. And that either needs to be the personnel or the way you go about preaching turnovers, because we got to have more of them. Those are vital to success. You can live without them, but you can't thrive without them. You can live without them as long as you're not turning it over, which is what we did this season. We survived because we did not turn the ball over, but we did not thrive until we started creating turnovers. We didn't start to thrive until the end of the season. We didn't start to thrive. And if you recall, during that stretch at the end when we won 5 straight to end the regular season, we weren't creating turnovers. We just weren't turning the ball over. We had started to adopt this, issue where we would turn the damn ball over every week. We turned it over against, we did not turn it over against New Orleans. But we forced turnovers in that game. Part of the reason why we won that game. The next week against Philadelphia, we turned it over a ton. But we got a turnover. That's what saved us in that game. The following week against Atlanta, we got a turnover to start that game. Gave us momentum. Now, we turned it over in that game. If you recall, Jaden threw an interception. But we forced a turnover. That was huge. Right? Got a touchdown off of that. That was massive. The following week after that, right? Dallas. I don't think we forced a turnover in that game. We had one turnover. Jamison Crowder tried to catch a ball, got run into, and the Cowboys recovered it. I don't think we forced a turnover that entire game. But you got to the postseason, and what happened? We took care of the ball, forced a turnover against Tampa. We took care of the ball against Detroit. We forced 4 turnovers in that game. Well, 5. Let me see. Fumble, pick, 5. Golf threw 3. Williams threw 1. Golf fumble. Forced 5 turnovers, didn't turn it over once. Then you get to the championship game, and all hell breaks loose. You don't create any turnovers, and you turn it over 4 times. It's not an accident that you lose that game. And you can't play the ifs game, right? Ifs and buts game. Can't do that. Would have loved to have seen what would have happened without the turnovers. But they happened. They actively hunted the football, and we didn't do the same. That's got to change. Not ready to have a Joe Wick conversation. I don't think we should be ready to have one. When we feel like the level of talent defensively isn't reaching the production, then we can have a Joe Wick conversation. I don't think any of us walked away saying, man, this defense underachieved. I don't think anybody said that in year 1. That's when the conversation needs to happen. 2 years ago, we thought we had a stacked defense. And we didn't get the production out of the defense that we thought we should have gotten. That's when a conversation needs to be had about the defensive coordinator. That didn't happen this year. We'll see what the defense looks like on paper next year, and that will create the narrative of what this defense should be. We went into the season, remember this, we went into the defense this season thinking the defense would be the catalyst, only because we had a rookie quarterback and we didn't know what to expect. First year, Cliff Kingsbury, first year with Jaden Daniels, all of this was brand new. So, the prevailing thought was rookie quarterback, got to take care of him, got to make sure that you don't put him in tough positions. Defense is going to carry this team early. The offense will come on as the season wears on, and then we'll see what happens. Couldn't have been more wrong about that. It was offense from the word go. But this defense wasn't super talented. So we'll see what this defense looks like on paper. And if we feel like the necessary adjustments have been made and they've acquired more talent, and we feel like, hey, this defense has no business being, because again, statistically, and I know you don't want to hear this, statistically, the defense wasn't half bad this year. I know you ain't trying. Like, we had a top 5 pass defense this year. I know that's crazy. I know. Overall, we were like 13th in the league defensively. Like yards given up, which is the metric that the NFL uses to rank defenses. We were like 13th in the league in total defense. Top 5 pass defense. Horrible run defense. I think the run defense was like 27th. It might have been 30th. Whatever. It was bad, right? Somewhere in that neighborhood. 27 to 30, somewhere in there. Third downs, we weren't bad. We were like 17th in the league, 16th in the league, somewhere in that middle of the pack, third downs wise. Like, we were good everywhere except turnovers and run defense, obviously. We weren't a great red zone defense either. Part of that is you don't get to the quarterback. And we couldn't stop the run in the red zone. That doesn't help either. So, again, we'll see how they clean up some of that stuff, but we'll see what the talent level looks like, right? The Commandalorian. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Lou, I was literally just arguing the fact that JD5 played the Eagles way better than Pat. He literally moved the ball down the field and scored. It's again, don't argue with the ignorant. It's just, a wise woman once said, Don't argue with ignorance. Rationalize with it, or at least try to. And sometimes the rationale has to come from your side of things. You might have to reconcile in your brain that this isn't a smart move and just say, hey, you got it. Like, no need in arguing. It's not going to get you anywhere. They're going to, because the score was 55-23, they're going to tell you that he was ass. They don't have any basis for this other than the final score. And then they want to point to his overall numbers in the game. And I'm like, there's context to everything. All right. I'm going to tell you that when the game was in the balance, he gave us a shot. He didn't let us down. We didn't walk away from that game saying, man, Jaden Daniels played an awful game. We walked away saying, damn, Jaden Daniels' teammates let him down. They didn't give him a chance. But it's all about perspective. Ain't no question he played better against the Eagles, but I don't like comparing losses, right? I hate doing that. That's loser shit. And all it does is it glorifies the team that won. When you start comparing whose loss looked better, that shit makes Eagles fans' egos swell up. I'm not doing that shit. F what the Chiefs did. We ain't got nothing to do with that. What we did against them, I know what my quarterback did, and I know what he's capable of. And he gave us a shot. Mahomes ain't give his team a chance in the game. That offensive line ain't give the Chiefs a chance. Our offensive line wasn't great against Philadelphia, but it wasn't that bad. And Jaden Daniels damn sure wasn't that bad. But again, we know them. We play them. That was our third time. That was Mahomes' first time seeing them this season. It is what it is. But the comparison, it ain't close, but it's not even necessary. It's a losing battle, right? It's a losing battle. So, anyway. The Commandalorian, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? When are we talking draft? I got some gems, my boy. It's coming. It's right around the corner. I think I'm about to pop the seal on the draft. If not this week, next week for sure, because the combine is the last week of February. So I got to get on my shit just to be familiar with some of these guys so that we go into the... I always like to be familiar enough to know what I'm looking for. So I got to get on my horse. Normally, I would have already started to dive in because my team usually is trash. This year's a little different. So now I got to rev up that draft engine. Not as juiced up for the draft as normal. That I'll get there eventually. But, bro, we were one game away from the Super Bowl. Like, I saw a lot of Commanders fans yesterday that weren't over the loss yet. They were still talking about that shit, you know, stinging and hurting and not, you know, having not moved on. I know some people that refused to watch the Super Bowl because they hadn't gotten over the loss yet. So I'm gonna be ready to move on to the draft in a little bit, but I'm dragging my feet. I ain't gonna front. I'm dragging my feet. Anyway, I digress. That's gonna do it for me, your man Louie T, here on the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time. It might be tomorrow because I got some more things that I want to talk about. You'll definitely get a podcast from me tomorrow. My region of the U.S. is supposed to get smacked with some snow tomorrow. So my son already had his school canceled for tomorrow, so he'll be home. But the good thing is their daycare has not. His after-school program has not, so he's still going. However, if it starts to snow, they may be like, hey, we closing early. Come get your kids. So we'll see how all of this shit goes tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a little funky, but we'll get it in. We'll get it in. I have not talked to the Commanders Kings yet, so I don't know if we're going to be live tomorrow night, but we'll be live at some point this week, whether it's tomorrow, Wednesday. We'll fit it into the schedule. So anyway, I digress. You guys have a good one. Take care. See you guys next time. Good night, or God bless, and good night. Peace.